You were friends with Father Thomas Hopko. You knew him, obviously, colleagues, but also friends,
Dear friends.
dear friends. What was the greatest gift that you feel like God gave the church in America and generally through Father Thomas?
That's a great question. I could probably talk for an hour.
Or some of them. Yeah.
The best I can say is the great gift God gave to the church, me and you and others, through him is his very humanity, his very presence, his being, because it came through. If you just listen to his podcast, as I did a little bit today, or Memory and something, there are videos of him on YouTube. He was a very complex man, by far the most humble man I've ever known. A man from Endicott who referred to himself as a peasant priest. And he really believed that. I mean, he just thought of himself as, and one of his maxims on the internet is just be an ordinary person. He saw himself as an ordinary person, often quoted his mother. But he was also a man who fought, sometimes unvictoriously, with anger. He certainly blew up at me at least twice, that I now consider inappropriately. But that was his humanity coming through, and he was just a very human being. But he was so bright that when he got his doctorate from Fordham, while teaching here, they wanted him to go on the faculty there, and he simply told them that he couldn't because he was here. He and I did many. So there's a program in Hellenic College called Crossroad for high school kids that I have talked at for the last 18 years. And he would often be the prime speaker for the June group of high school seniors. So often he would go Monday to Friday, then I would do Friday night and Saturday, and we overlapped. So we would meet at Bertucci's in Brookline and have a 2-hour meal and have no agenda, just meet and talk. Then go to J.P. Lick's beside it for a little cup of ice cream, salty caramel, his favorite and mine, and just talk. So there was kind of a relaxed, I like you, you like me, and we have some things in common. As you know from reading my book, he asked me to give a talk here to youth, which I did. He sat in the back, and I had the youth write out some things about their past and their history and their likes and dislikes. So he did it. And afterwards he said, Al, would you read what I wrote? And I said, sure. So I read it and gave him a little feedback. And then he just asked me, he said, I'd like to begin doing therapy with you. What do you think of that? I said, well, if we do it, it'll have to be on my turf, please. You need to come to White Plains. We're not going to do it in your office. So once a week for a year, he drove to White Plains for an hour, and I did therapy for him. Now, granted, it was more therapy for me than him, but you know what I'm saying. There was a certain... So he was my spiritual father. I was his psychotherapist, and we had a deep relationship. My wife, when she contracted bone cancer, he was her spiritual father. We went to a couple of New York Mets baseball games together. He liked the Mets. My wife liked the Mets. I liked the Mets. He and I saw a movie together with another Orthodox priest, Field of Dreams. Separate topic, really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So the great gift was his bearing, his proclamation by being himself, just wherever he would go. He was just a very personable fellow, got along with anybody, apart from all of his books and podcasts and wonderful things that he did. One little anecdote I love, a great sense of humor, but when he contracted a heart protein problem after he retired from here, up at the monastery in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, it became clear that his wife, he lived with his wife, that she could no longer take care of him. It was just getting too far along. So everybody agreed that he needed to go to hospice. Well, we know why you go to hospice. So they did what they had to do and got the arrangements made. Took a while. Then they said, okay, drive down. We have a room for you. Drove down. He was in a wheelchair, waiting inside to get the room that they had prepared for him. As God would have it, they said, okay, you have a room on the third floor. Let's wheel you up. So they wheeled him into the elevator, back toward the back of the elevator, him looking out. Then a man walks by, looks up at the dial, looks into Hopko and says, are you going up? Well, Hopko says, I hope so. I mean, he could have said, half dozen different sarcastic things. Why do you think I'm here? I hope so. I mean, that's emblematic of his sense of humor. He just had a really great sense of humor.
Yeah.
So one time he got really angry with me, and I knew we were walking, and I knew he was in a snit for some other reason, which I didn't know. Still don't know. And then he just turned on me and he just said, I'm really angry at you because, I said to myself, uh-oh, because why? Because you didn't recommend the book Man's Search for Meaning by Franco, and I know you know it, and it's a great book, and you didn't tell me about it. I didn't say anything. I said to
Sense of
myself,
omission.
yeah, I don't know what books you have in your library. I'm not, anywhere near your level of intellect. Who am I to recommend a book? I didn't say any of that. I didn't say anything. And then he went on and on about how he was angry about other things with me. I knew he was taking that out from someplace else, so I just endured it. But I was so upset, I went home, typed a letter of resignation to saying, Father Tom, thank you for all the things you said. I've no doubt they're true. And anyone of that character really is not worthy of being the director of your Doctor of Ministry program. So if you would like to have my resignation, here it is. So he didn't acknowledge it or accept it, and he never mentioned it as like non-event. One other little thing that happened that's meaningful to me. One year we had an institute at St. Vladimir's for lay people, and I was to give a talk downstairs below the chapel after Matins. And so I had a handout I was going to give to them, and I wanted to catch him because he had presided at Matins and tell him about it. He was talking to a woman, so I waited. And then I said to Father Tom, I have a quote I'd like you to please look over that I want to give out and talk. My presentation will be this quote expanded. So would you please read it? He said, no, I want to give you a quote. I have a book here I want you to read. I said, Father Tom, I'm due downstairs in 5 minutes. I have to give a talk. Just read this if you would. No, I want to read a quote to you. I said, okay, now I'm holding a pack of quotes, one for everyone. He opened the book, The Art of Prayer, by Theophan, and he read the exact quote I was holding. Now, I don't want to make more of that than is, but in all of the quotes in that book and of all the books in his library at that moment to me, so I handed him my quote, which is what he just read. We were both astounded. So there are a couple of little things like that that happened. You could just know God's hand in life. So
yeah, well, like you said, allowing him to work through us.
Yeah.
Be his hands.
Yeah, just let him go. Yeah. Let go out. Just stop. One of the things I say to seminarians most is, you do too much thinking. I'm a recovering alcoholic. One of the things in the AA program, I've been sober 30 years, is I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. So it is true of me for sure, but it's true for most of us. We are very narcissistic. Yeah. Very self-centered.
Yeah. It was wonderful. I joke with people that I felt like I could follow him around with my camera on my audio recorder and just write, like he'd be writing books as
Yeah.
he talked, just kind of connections, and
Yeah.
everything he said was really interesting, and like you said, just a great mind.
Yeah. And you could watch the responses of many of the other people that he talked with, who were those open, could catch the light, and you could see the light bulbs. Whoa!
Yeah.
Couldn't feel the explosion.
Yeah.
But he really was a pretty totally non-judgmental person.
Yeah.
He just was. I mean, just, you knew it. Didn't matter if the person was brown, green, striped. Human being.
Yeah.
And he really, so in that sense, he really saw through God's eyes other humans. That's one of the things I'm fond of talking to the high school kids about. They really resonate that we don't judge others because they sin differently than we do. And of course, high school kids are judged often by adults for things they do, whether it's dyeing their hair green or something. So we can get I can get much more mileage out of that topic than I can at coffee hour if I, as I did, gave a homily on that topic. And, you know, adults, nee. But high school kids just on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't judge others because they sin differently than we do.